So looking at the sheet music at the top of the page, in the middle as always, you've got the song title, which is Caribbean Sunset. On the left hand side beneath that, you can see we've got the song genre here, so it's Latin. So it's letting you know we're playing Latin music for this piece. Next to that we've got a quarter note equals 115, that's the tempo of the piece. So we've got a quarter note pulse that we're going to be feeling as we play this, and there's going to be 115 quarter notes every minute. Okay, so that's the tempo. And then if we look beneath that, we can see we've got a big letter A in a box. That's just letting you know the first section is section A. Okay, so it's just a section. And then we've got our percussion clef at the start, the first bar, just letting you know it's drum notation on the stave. And then next to that, we've got our time signature. So our time signature is 4/4. We've got a 4 at the top, which tells us we've got 4 beats in our bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 in each bar. And then the bottom number being 4 tells you each one of those beats that you're feeling is a quarter note, which we've obviously touched on before when we spoke about the tempo. Okay, so you're feeling that quarter note pulse. So all of those beats in the bar are quarter notes. Okay, so Latin music, really fun to play. So we are going to be replicating different rhythms using this style of music, and we're also going to be replicating different bits of percussion that are used in this style of music as well. All right, so great fun to play. Let's get started on the piece. Now in the first bar we've got a groove which typically in a Latin band wouldn't be played on a drum kit. They'd play it with different parts of percussion. Okay, so we're going to replicate that with the drum kit. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 2 rhythms. We've got a rhythm with the right hand. Now we've got a quarter note on the 1, quarter note rest on 2, quarter note on the 3, and a quarter note rest on 4. So we'll just spend a quarter note on the 1 and 3. So we've got 1, rest, 3, rest. Now if you look at the sheet music, those quarter notes are on the ride cymbal line. Okay, so we are playing those quarter notes on the ride cymbal, but you can see the note head is a diamond shape. So that's because we're playing these on the ride bell. Okay, so instead of playing on this part of the cymbal, the main part of the ride cymbal, we're going to be hitting that bell. So we're going to strike it with the side of the stick just to get some real clarity in the note so it really pierces through. Okay, it's a really high-pitched, strong sound. So we just need to make sure we can get that accuracy with striking it at the side of the stick. Okay, if you hit it with the tip of the stick, it's a little bit light and doesn't really pierce through the music too much. Okay, so we're going to hit it with the side here. All right, just striking it on the side of the stick. So let's try that now for 1 and 3. So you're going to play the 1, rest on 2, play the 3, rest on 4. Just getting the accuracy with the right hand striking the bell. What you'll notice is if you miss it sometimes, you might hit the soft felt here, which will obviously make you miss one of those nice sounds that the band and the music needs. Okay, and you might hit the main part of the cymbal sometimes as well, which isn't too bad, but it's got a different sound, not as strong. So we really want that strong ride bell sound. Okay, so really practice that accuracy now. So let's try it on the 1 and 3. So we'll give ourselves a count in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so just hitting that 1 and 3, that's got to be really consistent, that really holds the groove together. And then the second rhythm we've got in this bar is bass drum on 1 for a quarter note, snare drum on 2 for a quarter note, bass drum on 3 for a quarter note, and high toms for 8th notes on the 4 and. Okay, so we've got a collective rhythm for this one. 1, 2, 3, 4 and. So you've got kick, snare, kick, tom tom, kick, snare, kick, tom tom. So the drums here with this rhythm are going to be played with the left hand, because obviously that right hand's going to be playing the first rhythm. So let's try the second rhythm in the bar now. Just that 1, 2, 3, 4 and just getting used to that movement with the left hand. Let's try that. Give ourselves counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so once you got those two rhythms, we're going to put them together. Okay, so like I said before, this is replicating Latin percussion. So this is a typical Afro-Cuban cha-cha rhythm that would usually be played on the congas. Okay, so that's why we've got that big slap on the snare drum on the 2, which is like your backbeat, and then we've got those toms on the 4. Okay, so a real common rhythm used in Latin music. So let's get this down now, those 2 parts, putting them together. We'll try it 8 bars through just to get real used to that that groove. Okay, so let's try bar 1 now, and looking at the dynamic beneath the bar you've got an MF, which is short for mezzo forte, half loud, about your normal playing level. Okay, so let's give the whole groove a try. When looking at bar 2, we've got the same groove, we're just moving those high tom notes to the mid tom. Okay, so we've got a lower pitch on that 4 and. Okay, so we've got that nice groove, we've got that backbeat on 2, toms on 4. Right, so let's try that groove now, just replacing those high toms on the 4 and onto the mid tom. Okay, so let's try that groove now. And then in the third bar, we're just moving those toms to the floor tom. Okay, so we're going even further down in pitch. So we've got a nice low pitch on the floor tom with the left hand. Okay, so let's try same groove again, just playing those tom notes on the floor tom. And then looking at the final bar of line 1, we've got a quarter note on the ride bell for 1 and 2. They go with the bass drum. Okay, so you've got 1, 2, ride bell and bass drum together in unison. And then you've got 3 and 4, and that's played on the snare and floor tom together. Okay, so you can have left hand on snare, floor tom with the right hand. Going to hit those in unison for 3 and 4. Okay, so you've got ride bell for 2 counts with the bass drum. And then snare and floor tom together for 3 and 4. Okay, so putting those 2 bars together, let's try the 4th bar now, the last bar in line 1, 4 times through. So now we're going to play the whole of line 1. So you've got that Afro-Cuban cha-cha rhythm, played ride bell, snare, slap onto, toms on the 4, okay, just moving those toms. So in the first bar you've got toms on high tom, second bar we've got the toms on the mid tom, third bar we've got the toms on the floor tom. So your left hand will be moving around the kit as we move through the bar, and then you've got that little break at the end of the first line in bar 4. Okay, we're playing the snare and floor tom in unison. So let's try the whole of line 1 now, and remember the whole line is played at mezzo forte. Now in line 2, the first 3 bars of line 2 are the same as the first 3 bars of line 1. So you've just got that Afro-Cuban cha-cha rhythm, that groove being played again for the first 3 bars. So if we look at the 4th bar of line 2, we've got another break. We're playing the ride bell on the 1 and 2 for quarter notes again, but we've just got a bass drum on the 1 this time. And then our break is just 2 quarter notes on the snare and floor tom again. So you've got 3, 4. Okay, so that bar we've got. Okay, so it's just quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're just hitting those downbeats. Okay, so let's try that 4th bar 4 times through. And now we'll try the whole of line 2. Okay, so that groove for 3 bars, moving that left hand from the high tom to the mid tom to the floor tom for our groove, and then playing that break in the 4th bar. And that brings us to the end of section A. So let's try the whole section now, the first 2 lines of the piece. So you've got your 3-bar groove, then a break in the 4th bar, and then you've got the 3-bar groove again and another break in the 2nd 4th bar. Okay, so let's try the whole of section A. And now we'll try section A with the music. Okay, so if we look at our counting in the top right hand side of the piece, we've got a 2-bar counting. The first bar of counting, we've got quarter note on 1, a quarter note rest on 2, quarter note on 3, quarter note rest on 4. So you're going to be hearing the 1 and 3. And in the second bar of counting, you've got all 4 quarter notes on the 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you're going to hear 1, rest, 3, rest, 1, 2, 3, 4. So remember that counting gives you a chance to feel the tempo. Okay, so you really got to feel the tempo so when you start playing, you come in at the right tempo. Okay, so this is Latin music. It's real feel-good, upbeat, so really replicate that in your playing. Get used to playing with the other musicians, right? Complement them as well as the feel of the music. So let's try section A now in time with a backing track. So now we come into section B, so you can see the letter B in a box there letting you know it's section B. So for the first line of this section, which is line 3 of the piece, we've got a build up, okay? We're really kind of building up the energy in this section. So what we've got is we've got quarter notes throughout the whole line. For the first 2 bars of this line, we're just playing those quarter notes on the bass drum. Okay, it's just hitting those downbeats. Just need to be really secure, hitting all the downbeats. And all we do for the second 2 bars in that line is bring in the floor tom as well. So the bass drum and floor tom play in unison for bars 3 and 4. Quarter notes all the way through the line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the bass drum. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on bass drum and floor tom. So keep those downbeats rock solid. You can see the dynamics. So beneath the first bar, you've got a P, which is short for piano, which means soft. So we need to play that nice and soft. And then when the floor tom comes in at bar 3, the dynamic changes to MP, which is mezzo piano, which means half soft. So we're going to bring it up a little bit, not too much, but just bringing it up a little more. We're just building that energy a little more. So let's try the whole of line 3 now. And then in the next line of section B, which is the 4th line of the piece, we've got a quarter note rhythm again for that first bar of that line, and we're bringing in the high tom as well. So we've still got the bass drum and floor tom playing on the downbeats, we're bringing in the high tom. So we're playing 3 parts of the kit with 3 different limbs, and we've got to line them all up at the same time, okay? Which is trickier than it sounds. We've got to make sure we hit together. So really isolate the note, playing it all at the same time. Okay, so just give that a try now, just making sure you're hitting it at the same time. Okay, you might find sometimes you're just off, it's not quite together, so really kind of correct that and get a feel for playing right in unison. Okay, so let's try that bar. We're just hitting those quarter notes, all 4 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll try it 4 times through. Beneath the bar, you can see the dynamic is now mezzo forte, MF, okay, which means half loud. So bringing the dynamic up again to about our normal playing level. So you see we're still building that energy. All right, so let's try that bar now 4 times through. And in the next bar of that line, we've got the same thing we've just played in the previous bar, okay? So you're playing that rhythm on 3 parts of the kit. There's that quarter note rhythm, for 2 bars, and then we come into bar 15, so we've got a fill for this bar. So the rhythm for this fill is 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. We've got a quarter note on 1, eighth notes on the 2, 3, and 4. We play a bass drum on the 1, and then we've got eighth notes going round the kit. So you've got eighth notes on the high tom, eighth notes on the mid tom, eighth notes on the floor tom. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's get a feel for that fill. So we'll try that 4 times through. Beneath the bar, you can see the dynamics changed again. So now we've got an F, which is short for forte, which means loud. So we're bringing the dynamic up even more, okay, to loud. So let's try that bar at that dynamic. So now we'll try the whole of the second line of section B, which is line 4 of the piece. So we're just building up that energy, like I said before. We've got quarter notes on this 3 parts of the kit, so the bass drum, the floor tom, and the high tom, hitting those quarter notes for 2 bars, and in that 3rd bar, we're bringing in that fill at forte. Okay, so you've got mezzo forte for those first 2 bars, forte for the 3rd bar, and then in the 4th bar of the line, we've got a whole bar rest, okay, a whole note rest, so we're just resting for that whole bar. So let's try the whole of line 4 of the piece. And that brings us to the end of section B, so let's try the whole section now, putting lines 3 and 4 together of the piece. So we've got a build up for this section. We start a piano on the bass drum for 2 bars, then we bring in the floor tom at mezzo piano for 2 bars, we bring in the high tom as well for mezzo forte for 2 bars, then we play the fill for 1 bar at forte, and then we've got a 1 bar rest. Okay, so we're going to try the whole of section B, building up that dynamic from piano through to mezzo piano, through to mezzo forte to forte. So we're going up 1 dynamic level for each 2 bars. Let's give the whole of section B a try. So now we'll try section B with the backing track. So in the music for this section, the rest of the band are playing the montuno rhythm, which is typically 1, 2, and 1, 2, and. So a lot of emphasis on those upbeats. Okay, but there's variations of that rhythm. So the variation you'll hear the rest of the band playing is 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Okay, so it's a 2 bar rhythm. So the rest of the band are playing that. You're just supporting them, building that energy. Okay, so remember we're starting at piano, building up to mezzo piano, building up to mezzo forte, then building up to forte for the fill. Okay, so just support that rhythm. Make sure you're playing in time, hitting in unison. Okay, so let's try section B in time with the backing track. So now we come on to section C, which is the final section of the song. So you can see we've got the letter C in a box at the start of section C, which is at bar 17, the 5th line of the piece. So now we come back to a groove, which is very similar to the groove we played in section A, but there's a slight change up. So what we're going to do now, ride cymbal is going to play the first 3 downbeats. Okay, so instead of just playing the 1 and the 3, we're going to play the 1, 2, 3 on that ride bell. Okay, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you're hitting 1, 2, 3, rest. 1, 2, 3, rest with the ride. The bass drum is still going on the 1 and the 3, so put that in now. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the tom part is still coming in with those eighth notes on the 4. So you're playing 4 and on the toms. Okay, so we'll put those in as well. So we'll start on the high tom. Okay, so you see we've got that extra ride on the 2, the downbeat of 2, which we didn't have in the groove in section A. And the other thing we're going to change is the slap on the snare drum. So we played that on the 2 in the first groove in section A, so playing that slap on the snare, the backbeat of 2. We're now going to shift to the and of 2, so we're going to shift it an eighth note. Okay, so we're going to play that upbeat of 2 instead of the downbeat on the snare drum. So you're playing that ride bell on the 2. So on the second beat with your hands, you're playing ride bell on 2, left on the and of 2. So you've got 2 and between those two parts of the kit. So let's put that last part of the groove in. So it sounds like this. Okay, so you see just shifting that backbeat, that slap on the snare drum from the 2 to the end of 2 really changes the feel of the groove, okay? You get that nice upbeat, like delayed backbeat sound. So it sounds really nice, okay? So we're going to try and get this groove down. So we'll try it first of all just hitting those toms on the high tom first of all to really get the groove down. So we'll try that through first of all. And then just like the groove in section A, we're going to move that tom part around the kit. So we're going to play high toms on the 4 and for the first bar, then we're going to move to the mid tom for the 4 and on the second bar, then move to the floor toms for the 4 and on the third bar. Okay, so we'll just try those 3 bars just to get used to that movement going round the toms like we did in section A, but this time you've got that displaced backbeat on the upbeat, that offbeat sound on the snare drum on the end of 2. So we'll try those 3 bars now. We'll try it 4 times through. And then in the 4th bar of that line, which is the last bar of the first line of section C, we've got half a bar of groove and half a bar of a break. So we play 2 quarter notes on the ride bell. We've got a bass drum on the first one, snare drum on the second one. So that snare drum's now moved to the 2, that downbeat of 2. And then the half bar break is 3 and 4. That's the rhythm. 3 and 4. We're going to play the snare drum and floor tom in unison. Okay, so that bar sounds like this. Okay, so the rhythm 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's just give that bar a try. And now we'll try the whole line, okay? So that offbeat Afro-Cuban cha-cha rhythm, that groove, for 3 bars, just moving the tom around. So we've got high tom for the first bar, mid tom for the second bar, low tom for the third bar, and then you've got that break in the 4th bar. Okay, so let's try that whole line now, and the dynamic for this line is MF, which is short for mezzo forte, which means half loud. So we're going to play this at about your normal playing level. And in the final line of the piece, for the first 2 bars, you've got that offbeat groove again. And because we're only playing 2 bars of it, we're just going to play the high tom for the forehand of the first bar, low tom for the forehand of the second bar. Okay, so we've got no bar where we're playing that mid tom on the forehand. And then we've got a 2-bar fill at the end of the piece. So the last 2 bars, the rhythm is 1 and rest, 3 and rest, 1 and rest, 3, 4. Okay, the first two eighth notes are played on the snare drum. It's going to play right, left on snare drum. Then we've got that quarter note rest. Then we've got two eighth notes on the high tom, right, left on high tom, rest on the 4. Then we're going to play right, left on mid tom for the 1 and of the last bar, rest on 2. And then we've got a quarter note for 3 and 4 on the floor tom and bass drum in unison. Okay, so let's try those 2 bars now in time on the metronome. And you can see beneath the first bar of those 2 bars, we've got an F, which is short for forte, which means loud. Okay, so you're going to bring this up, this dynamic for this fill up to loud. So nice big finish. Let's try those 2 bars now. So we know that's the end of the piece, because we've got that final bar line at the end of that bar. Okay, so now let's try section C, the whole of section C. So we've got 2 lines now. That offbeat groove, we've got a break on the 4th bar, go back to the offbeat groove for 2 bars, then we've got a 2-bar fill to finish. Let's try the whole of section C. So let's try section C with a backing track. So for this section, it's very similar to what you had in section A. So we've got that groove, then we've got the break on the 4th bar, we go back to the groove, but now we've got a 2-bar fill finish. Okay, so remember the feel of this section is different because we've got that and of 2 backbeat. Okay, so we've shifted that snare to the and of 2. So make sure you're playing that in the right place to really complement the feel of the music in section C. Okay, and the breaks in this section, same as what you had in section A, so that band hits, make sure they're really tight with the rest of the band. Let's try section C in time with the backing track. So now we're going to put the whole piece together now. So section A, straight into section B, straight into section C. So just getting that fluency of the piece. So starting with that Afro-Cuban cha-cha rhythm with the breaks in section A, coming down to the montuno section for section B, just building up the energy, bringing it down to piano, building up to the end of that section at forte with a fill, then coming into that offbeat Afro-Cuban cha-cha groove to finish the piece, that mezzo forte again, and finishing with that 2-bar forte fill. So let's try the whole piece now. So now let's try the whole piece in time with the backing track. So remember in section A, you've got that Afro-Cuban cha-cha rhythm, that groove, playing that backbeat on the 2 on the snare drum at mezzo forte. You've got those hits with the band at the end of the first line, so the 3 and 4, that break on the floor tom and bass drum. And then we come into the second line of section A, very similar thing, just a different break on that 4th bar. Come into section B, we've got that montuno section where you're really complementing that rhythm by building up the energy. We're coming down to piano, building up, bringing in that floor tom for mezzo piano, bringing in the high tom for mezzo forte, and finishing with a fill at forte. And that will take you into section C where we're coming back to that groove, but an offbeat backbeat now. So you're hitting that backbeat on the and of 2, giving it a different feel, finishing with that big 2-bar fill at forte. Okay, so let's try the whole piece with the backing track.